Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, the President of the United States, the leader of the free world. It's a difficult job. You will have to make incredibly hard decisions or chart a course through challenging waters. Sometimes you will have to stand up to bullies with force, and sometimes you will need to use tact and diplomacy. For this role, you need to be physically fit and mentally fit. And I'm afraid that the current incumbent of the White House, Sleepy Joe Biden, is neither physically nor mentally capable of doing the job. We're going to have a look at this article and see what a doctor says. Right, so what we have here is like an op-ed piece by Dr. Nicole Safia. She's a doctor, and she's giving what her view is on the failing health, physical and mental, of the leader of the free world. Where's Jackie? Americans cannot ignore, and not just Americans, it must be said, the world, the whole world, but Americans cannot ignore the troubling signs of decline in front of our faces. Biden must submit to a cognitive assessment and give us the transparency we deserve, demands Dr. Nicole Safia. In President Joe Biden's first extended sit-down with a professional journalist in over 200 days, because he's been kept hidden and away from the press because those around him know the full awful state that he is now in, the 79-year-old commander-in-chief was confronted with a question on the minds of many Americans, and, as I say, not just Americans, people all over the world. Some people ask whether you are fit for the job, asked 60 Minutes' Scott Pelley. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think. Watch me. Honest to God, that's all I think. Watch me, the President responded. Well, America is watching, Mr. President. As a physician and a concerned citizen, this woman believes it is past time that we all received some real answers. At his next annual medical examination at Walter Reed Medical Center, presumably to take place in November, President Biden should undergo a cognitive assessment, as did President Donald Trump, and those test results should be released to the American public. Now, this is the physician is now saying that she hasn't formally examined President Biden and cannot diagnose the president from a distance. But common sense demands that we do not ignore the troubling signs in front of our faces. And we've all seen these. There was one recently where he didn't know how to get off a stage. He stumbles everywhere he walks. But he gets Jill sometimes has to step in and finish speeches for him. He's in a bad way. I think it's actually cruelty what's happening here. If Jill Biden had any concern for her husband, she'd make him resign and take him out of the public eye, because it's obvious that there's something wrong with him. Anyway, since assuming office, Biden's physical fitness appears to have declined. In his November 21 exam, the president's physician noted that Biden's ambulatory gait is perceptibly stiffer and less fluid than it was a year or so ago. That's not surprising. In fact, it's an expected occurrence that comes with great age. But the concern is not only for the physical health in an ageing president. There are also concerns over whether he is cognitively fit to handle the rigours of his position. I don't think he's fit for it now, and I don't think he's been fit for it for maybe 20 years. Biden's public gaffes included major moments of misspeaking, walking with a shuffling type gait, mumbling and appearing confused at public events. In fact, these troubling moments are nearly too numerous to mention here. After an outdoor White House event in August, the president attempted to shake Senator Chuck Schumer's hand after appearing to forget that they had just shaken hands. Following his remarks at the Global Fund Conference in September, Biden looked lost while walking off the stage before appearing to ask the crowd where he should go. But that isn't just walking off the stage. He doesn't know where he's going in just general policy, let's be honest. In his 60 Minutes interview, Biden contradicted official US policy by saying that the US military would defend Taiwan in the event the island was attacked by China. Hours later, the White House had to walk that statement back because he hasn't got a clue. Words come tumbling out of his brain, tripping over his teeth, out of his mouth, and he has no control over them because he has no filter anymore. In February 2022, the president misspoke again as Russia appeared to poised to attack Ukraine. He said, it's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc., he said, in regard to a hypothetical US response. And the reporter said, are you effectively giving Putin permission to make a small incursion into the country? The president laughed and said, good question. That's how it did sound like, didn't it? He did not correct the statement at the time. The most recent apparent stumble, another one because there's so many, occurred during a White House conference on hunger, nutrition and health in Washington on Wednesday. As the president praised lawmakers in the room, Biden appeared to seek out Republican Representative Jackie Walorski in the crowd. Jackie, are you here? He said. Where's Jackie? Oh, she must not be here. No, Jackie won't be there because I'm afraid Jackie is no longer with us. Jackie died in a car crash. Walorski was a prominent supporter of legislation to address food insecurity among Americans. And in August, Representative Walorski and her 2 aides were tragically killed in a car accident in her northern Indiana district. President Biden recognised her death in a statement at the time. Walorski's brother revealed on Wednesday that President Biden even called his family shortly after the accident and expressed his personal condolences. So the president knew that this woman had, passed away. He'd phoned the family and give his condolences and had the conversations because she'd passed away. He'd made this contact. He was completely aware of it, and then was like, "Where's Jackie?" Because his memory's gone. He made a phone call after my sister was killed, and he was very sincere in his relaying the grief process, Keith Walorski told the New York Post. Yeah, it was a big mess up today. Inexcusable? No. Unforgivable? No. I'm not going to hold it against him. I just feel sorry for him. Now, you've got people feeling sorry for him. Does America need a president that people feel sorry for? Or do they need someone who can grab the bull by the horns and actually do the job? And I think America, you've got a big problem now. You have got a person in the White House who is not capable of exercising the role of president. And I think it's time to pull out the 25th. One reasonably asks, why did the president appear to think that Representative Walorski was alive in the room with him, and if he had spoken to her family 8 weeks earlier regarding her death? It is not inappropriate to ask if the president's short-term memory is subpar or gone completely. This latest gaffe came up repeatedly during the White House briefing on Wednesday, during which the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, refused to admit the president had made a mistake. No, he hadn't made a mistake in his mind because he has no concept of what's happening in the world. Instead, she said that the late congressman was top of his mind since members of her family would be meeting with him this week. Her explanation did not sit well with the White House press corps, and it shouldn't. There is good reason to question President Biden's mental acuity, and this Doctor Who's writing this piece is not the first to raise this issue. In August 21, retired surgeon and former Iowa Congressman Greg Gansky wrote in the Des Moines Register about his concerns over the president's mental acuity. Gansky recounted his personal interaction with the then senator in 1997. This is why I say it's over 20 years. When Biden was 54 years old, and Gansky noted how much Biden had changed over 20 years. It pains me greatly to see a decline in President Biden, and it worries me. There's enough evidence to legitimately require an inquiry into his mental acuity. He is bonkers. He can barely walk. I mean, he's having to be helped on with coats and things. About 3 or 4 times now, he's walked up sets of stairs and tripped. He forgets lines. He forgets names. And he sometimes misspeaks to such an extent that the White House press corps have to call emergency press meetings to try and walk it back and correct it. And there's a very famous video of him walking back after a press conference, and the Secret Service man is actually sort of saying, "In here, Mr. President," and pointing, and he just bumbles past him, stops and looks around because he doesn't know where he is. This is your president. This is the leader of the free world. This is the man whose finger's on the button. It's worrying. It worries everyone. It's something that needs to be addressed, and I think he does need to have this cognitive assessment. I think it needs to be made public, and I think those around him, in terms of power base, need to consider not having him as president anymore. But those around him who are family also need to think how much they love him, how much they respect him, and do they really want his declining years to be so publicised. And I think it's time for him to go. Anyway, I shall come up and round off. I think any kind of dementia or mental decline like this is a terrible thing. Terrible for the person who's undergoing it. Awful for the family around who are very slowly losing the person they love after many years. Well before the body goes, the mind has left the room. It is awful. And it's something that should be kept within the family and kept private and maintain the dignity and the legacy of the person. It should not be played out on a world stage. It's like some gothic Victorian freak show. Roll up, see the funny little creature, poke him with a stick and make him jump. It is that kind of level. Now, I don't think particularly Biden was a good president. I think he's ineffective. I don't think he's good for America. I don't think he's good for the world as a president. But that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve humanity. He doesn't deserve respect. And I think if his wife had any love or respect for him, she'd stop him being the centre of attention in his declining years and would make him leave the office. Let him resign with dignity and go off, disappear into wherever they need to go, see his declining years and see him out, surrounded by friends and family. Not, being basically looked at down the microscope of the world's media for every gaffe and fumble he makes. Like I say, the basic humanity of it is let him go. So it's up to America. I think the 25th should be called. It's unusual, I know, but unusual times. You've elected a leader whose health is now, I think, past the point of no return, and I don't think he's capable of doing the job. And I shall leave it there. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future outputs. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, be mindful of the elderly, and goodbye.